Okay, great. So I had some fun with the slide here. This is actually a photography collage borrowed from a really a neat project in autism. It's an installation project with photography and creative writing called Refugee Is Not My Name. And some friends of mine kind of operated this project. And so it's in the spirit of that project that I'm coming at it from a research perspective, specifically the social ecology perspective. I will say as a preface that this is a brand new project for me. So unlike some of the others, I don't have a bunch of findings to share, but I'm going to talk about the framing, and part of what I'm doing as part of this project is getting this off the ground. It does sit at the convergence of some long-running interests of mine, including post-colonial geopolitics, cultural agency, relational and communal flourishing, and more recently increasing interest in the role of place and emplacement in structuring adversity and flourishing. So real quickly, just to give some of the background here, as you can see the rise in numbers of the global population of displaced peoples. Oh, yep, thanks. One of the things I just want you to take away from here is that in addition to the overall increases, there's a transition away from global displacement, away from it being sort of a periodic and event connected to particular conflicts like World War II, Vietnam War, and being a sort of a standing condition of global displacement resulting from a number of global protracted conflicts and different patterns of conflict, often with historical links to colonial disruption. When we look at this in the United States, again, just a couple of takeaways. In the US, refugee resettlement historically was executed in response to specific conflicts. So you see at the end of the Vietnam War, you see the Refugee Act of 1980 that brought in a large number of Vietnamese and other Southeast Asians, the fall of the Soviet Union, which resulted in an influx of refugees from the former Soviet socialist republics, and then this drop after 9/11. But now during this current period, there's a broader diversity of immigrants, and there's also this shift to where after 9/11, resettlement has been refugee resettlement policy has been far more subjected to overall trends in racism and xenophobia. So it's much more politicized now than it was 50, 60 years ago. So that gives you some of the background of the project. So our initial project goals are to offer rich and humanizing narratives of refugee flourishing in order to counter some of the political aspects of refugee resettlement in the United States. Also promote and inform responsive refugee resettlement policies. You can imagine with the broad diversity of groups that are now coming in under the refugee program, it's really difficult to develop responsive policy. So in the interest of moving that forward, looking at some of that diversity here, and then contribute to the larger project of modeling collective flourishing under these adverse conditions. This graphic gives you sort of a lay of the land in terms of the literature on refugee and immigrant outcomes. Without going into too much detail, these progress from the more simple, straightforward outcomes, just basic resettlement, homes, jobs, basic needs, around into kind of a robust collective flourishing. And so one of the things I'm interested in here, what does it mean to measure the flourishing of a community in dialogue with individual flourishing with the members of that community? And last, this gives you a sense of what the first stage of this research project is going to look like over the next couple of years. So engaging in an exercise that I'm calling emic mapping, answering these questions by our intention is to interview leaders and organizations working within these key representative groups in Boston, and also determine next steps for our target populations and then our methodological approach. So thank you very much.